Today, I would be explaining a movie titled Gifted. Spoilers ahead, keep an eye out. At the beginning of the movie we meet Frank Adler. He is trying to get his niece, Mary, to come out of the bathroom. She is not fond of the outfit she has to wear for what is to be her first day of school. Frank and Mary live in a small home with their one-eyed cat Fred. Frank then goes to drop Mary off at the bus stop. Frank tells Mary that she should try to be a kid. After she's gone, Frank is spotted by his neighbor Roberta. Roberta follows Frank into his house and tells him that he needs to get Mary back or do something for Mary or else he will lose her while she is in tears. Roberta and Mary are best buds as Frank consoles her with the fact that Mary has to socialize with kids her age. Mary begins her first day of first grade in math class taught by Ms. Bonnie. Bonnie goes over first grade math problems with the rest of the class. Bored out of her mind, Mary eventually speaks up, making it known that the lack of challenge is beyond her ability to bear. Bonnie warns her for speaking out of turn and starts asking her increasingly difficult arithmetic problems to make a point. To her surprise, Mary answers them all, including multiplying complex number and squaring them, like her brain is a calculator. Bonnie is really impressed. At lunch break, Principal Davis enters the room and Mary shouts at her to call Frank and get her out of class. After school, Frank picks Mary up. Bonnie runs outside to catch him and discuss Mary's incredible knowledge of math. Frank says that Mary studied the Trachtenberg method to allow herself to memorize equations and arithmetic computations. Bonnie later looks up the Trachtenberg method to see what Frank was talking about. She also looks up Mary's mother/Frank's sister Diane, who was a brilliant mathematician working on one of the Millennium Prize problems until she committed suicide when Mary was only 6 months old. Frank takes Mary out for a day at the beach on a boat, while also lecturing her on why she shouldn't have yelled at the principal. Mary does appear to show remorse. Later, Frank goes to a bar he visits every Friday night, and finds Bonnie coming in to approach him. She confronts Frank about what he did and did not tell her truthfully about Mary. Frank explains how Diane came to him one night, and he did not realize what she would do later. He found Diane on the bathroom floor, and has had Mary ever since. In school, Bonnie gives the test quizzes but Mary finishes the questions within seconds. Bonnie gives her another quiz but she still finishes it within seconds and smiles at Bonnie. The next morning, Mary is on the school bus and sees her classmate Justin walking with a zoo diorama that Mary finds better than the one she made. Another kid named Ricky trips Justin and causes him to break his diorama, mocking the poor boy in front of the other kids. Mary yells at Ricky for what he did, and when he asks what she'll do, Mary grabs a textbook from another kid and whacks Ricky in the face, breaking his nose. Frank is called in after the incident. Principal Davis considers expelling Mary but then suggests granting her a scholarship to attend the Oaks Academy for Gifted Education, as someone with Mary's intellect would be more suited for that environment. However, Frank refuses to allow it, feeling that Mary needs a normal education and childhood. Mary later apologizes to her class for hitting Ricky, but then takes the opportunity to mention how great Justin's diorama was, leading the class to applaud the boy. In another scene, Frank and Mary receive an unexpected visit from Frank's estranged mother Evelyn, who they have not seen in years since Diane died. Either had she ever once visited Mary for the sake of care. Why now? She gives Mary a laptop as a gift. Evelyn then takes the time to criticize Frank's living arrangements and Mary's form of education, which doesn't surprise Frank. She claims she is looking out for Mary's best interests and asks Frank what Diane would think if she saw how Mary lives now. Evelyn wants to take Mary and give her the best education she can get to put more potential in her future. Frank and Evelyn then become involved in a custody battle. Evelyn brings her lawyer Highsmith while Frank is represented by Cullen. Highsmith argues that Frank illegally gained custody of Mary, while Cullen defends Frank's living conditions. It is settled that Frank and Mary will be checked on while Evelyn will have some time to herself with Mary. Frank leaves Mary with Roberta for the evening, while he goes out for drinks with Bonnie. They eventually hook up, although Bonnie is initially hesitant. The two sleep together, and Mary unexpectedly goes over to her house the next morning while Bonnie is there wrapped in a bed sheet, definitely awkward. Mary catches her, and Bonnie leaves extremely embarrassed. Frank scolds Mary for leaving Roberta's home when she wasn't supposed to, so Mary thinks Frank can have a personal life because of her. Evelyn takes Mary to Boston the next morning. She shows Mary pictures of Diane and tells her about Diane's research into the Navier-Stokes problem, which Diane had devoted her life to. Evelyn takes Mary to meet her colleague, Shankland, to review an equation he tried to solve. Mary appears confused by Shanklin's work, which he dismisses as her simply not being able to comprehend just yet. Evelyn is angry about Shanklin's inappropriate comment as Evelyn takes Mary away. Mary states that she was confused because Shanklin's equation was wrong. Mary returns, corrects the equation, and starts to solve it, leaving Shanklin in awe. She dissected the equation till she arrived at her answer. Hey, not bad for a 7-year-old. Meanwhile, back in Tampa, Frank and Bonnie continue seeing each other on the boat. Mary starts seeing a psychologist named Pat. Pat learns much about Mary's life, including that she has no friends her age and that she sees Roberta as her closest friend. Pat appears concerned when Mary mentions that she and Roberta watch UFC fights every week. During the next court hearing, Mary's biological father, Bradley, testifies on behalf of Evelyn. Cullen presses Bradley over his non-involvement in Mary's life, not even being able to know her middle name. The judge rules against Bradley for any sort of custody. When Mary learns that her father was around, she breaks down in tears over him not bothering to visit her. To cheer her up, Frank and Roberta take Mary to the hospital to see a family gathered as they await the birth of a new child. When they learn that a boy has been born, the family cheers. Frank tells Mary that this is what it was like when she was born, and it was he that stepped out to deliver the news. Frank and Evelyn return to court. Highsmith grills Frank as he testifies regarding his current job doing freelance boat repairs when he used to have a job as an assistant professor at Boston University, as well as a previous arrest for assault. Highsmith continues to insist that Frank is depriving Mary of a potentially fruitful future. Cullen in turn presses Evelyn about the circumstances surrounding Diane's passing. Cullen later goes to Frank's home and tells him that he and the judge have come to an agreement where Mary would be placed in foster care until the age of 12 when she can decide where to live, out of fear that they will lose the case and Frank would lose full custody of Mary. Cullen urges Frank to take the deal. Frank meets the foster parents and sees that they have a nice home and family. He leaves Mary there, and they have a tearful goodbye where Mary begs Frank not to leave her. Frank must regrettably walk away even as Mary cries and screams for him. This is the first time Frank is in tears as it really touched him to leave her there. Even Roberta is touched, as the house is lonely without Mary. After a while, when Frank tries to visit Mary, the foster father tells him that she doesn't want to see Frank. Bonnie comes across a flyer for a missing cat, Fred. She sends the picture to Frank, who later goes with Bonnie to the animal shelter, as he seems to know what is going on. Not only does he get Fred back, but he gets 2 more cats as well. Frank goes to the foster home and finds out Evelyn is staying in the guest home and has 2 tutors present for Mary. Although Mary is initially angry to see Frank, she breaks down and hugs him. He tells her it was a mistake to have left her there, and he is sorry. Frank then goes to Evelyn and presents her with something she had never known of before: Diane's completed work on the Navier-Stokes problem. Evelyn thinks it's fake and that Diane would have wanted it published soon. Frank reveals that Diane had requested not to have the work published until after Evelyn's death. This hits her quite hard. Frank says he will have the work published on the condition that Evelyn give up custody of Mary to Frank, otherwise the work will remain unpublished until Evelyn dies. Frank leaves. Evelyn breaks down in tears and she calls Shankland. Mary is back home with Frank, as she has begun to take afternoon college courses. Frank picks her up and brings her to the park to join with Bonnie and the other students. Deep down, I think everybody is just a human being, gifted or not, they just want to be happy. The end. If you enjoyed this movie, comment on how you feel, leave a like, and also subscribe and turn on the notification bell to get more videos like this. See you next time.